morning. Welcome once again to another episode of The Breakdown. My name is Carl and I'm your host. I am coming to you live from New York City where spring has sprung and it is an incredible 40 degrees out. I'm telling you folks, I can't do it any longer. I don't know who needs to fix this. I don't know if it's Donald Trump or Miss Vanjie or that little kid who yodels in Walmart. I don't know whose job it is, but somebody needs to figure this out. I might not survive much longer if this weather doesn't start warming up. Maybe like Frozen the musical thinks this is a really cute marketing ploy. It's not, y'all. It's not cute. It's not fun. And you know what? Before I start yelling at random Broadway shows, maybe we should just like get into this and I'll introduce people. Here's our panelists, guys. Good morning. So, joining us today is actor, funny guy, and the heart and soul of the serving staff at Maysville. We have Ryan Andrews.
Hi, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Next up, we have one of our longtime volunteers for Broadway Unlocked. She is currently working on a great mini-series called Muse Match TV that will be coming to you in just a few weeks through our Broadway Unlocked channel. We have Miss Sarah McGowan.
Hi, guys. Good morning.
And last but not least, joining us today from Chicago, where he plays King George III in Hamilton the Musical, we've got Andrew Call down there.
Good morning, everyone. Hello.
Good morning, guys. How's it going?
It's great.
Well,
Good.
Chilly. It's cold.
How is it in Chicago?
Colder there?
Is it also
it's
terribly
so much
cold?
colder. It's like, I don't think we've gotten above 50 degrees for the last 3 months.
Yeah.
It's pretty hateful.
I'm one of those where like I complain. I like to be that New Yorker that complains about how cold New York is. And then every time that I see my friends in Chicago that they're like, oh, it's negative 18 degrees here today, I'll go for a walk. I'm like, I could never.
Yeah, I've never really been here before, and it's put a bad taste in my mouth for Chicago, as far as the weather goes. It's a great city,
love you,
so
Chicago. That winter is not cute. Nobody
it's
likes
not
it.
cute.
Michigan Avenue is too wide. The wind rips right through you.
Well, and I know that I know Sarah and I are from the South. I'm from Tennessee. Sarah's from Texas. So
I'm from Arkansas.
Texas.
Yeah, so we're not built for that.
Yeah.
Ryan's from Oregon, so it like never really gets that cold or that warm.
Yeah,
It like rains.
Well, okay, so guys, I got brunch with Ryan yesterday, and Ryan is currently on Whole 30, so this might seem a little rude, but it made me feel like a good like starter question for us today. If you could choose for your last meal, if you could have anything for your last meal, what would that be?
Oh, for me, it would definitely include a waffle.
Oh yeah, like
anything that includes a waffle.
Leslie Knope, Parks and Rec, going the waffles.
I really love waffles. I'm not afraid.
Great.
So much so that I was at a Waffle House one time so often that I had to get a hepatitis shot because someone who worked there, probably from like a prison relief program, not going to get into that, had it. And I was like, I eat here too often. I can't go to the hospital because of this. Not for health reasons, but for other health reasons.
That happened when I was in college. The Red Robin, in my town, someone had been working there for months with hepatitis and didn't tell anyone. And so like they said like 15,000 people might be infected.
Yeah, that's the same kind of thing. They were like, it's a if you've eaten here between the dates of such and such and such and such, you can get a shot. And I was like, I frequent that place too often. I have to.
It's like I've been there 12 times during that stretch.
It's like Trader Joe's recall.
Probably more. It was in high school, so probably more.
Yeah. Ryan, what would your, even though you can't eat it right now, what would your last meal be?
You look so hungry.
I know. Thank you. Thank you so much. If I would bathe in chicken fingers. I don't really care where you got them. If it's the Costco bag that you made in your kitchen, or if I am eating at, shout out Screen Door, my favorite place in Portland, Oregon, chicken and waffles.
Yeah.
Load me up.
Sarah, what about you?
So my Texas is going to show, but I'm going to say Tex-Mex. It has to be queso, yellow queso, because white queso is not real. cheese enchiladas with like refried beans, rice, all of that, and then end it with Bluebell ice cream.
Okay, that's solid. That's very solid. So I thought about this obviously because I had extra time because it's my question. And so I'd go the fried chicken route. Like some good fried chicken.
We are all Southerners.
Oh, so much. Ryan's honorary Southerner. If you like fried chicken, you get to be from the South. And then like there's this place in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, also in Nashville, called Demas's. And they have this like Greek chicken and rice soup that is like the best thing. I can eat like 15 bowls of it. So some of that, maybe like some watermelon. Love watermelon. Okay. I'm very Southern. Yeah, put those together and I'd be very happy.
It's a great last meal.
Right? Mm-hmm. That's what I feel like. I always love talking about those things because I like dreaming about the day that I could eat all of those at the same time.
Right.
You can do that. You know that.
That's true.
You probably
like
could.
Seamless lets that kind of thing happen.
Once Seamless starts delivering watermelon, it's all over. I'm never grocery shopping again.
Maybe we can get a sponsorship from Seamless. Yo, Seamless, we love you.
Yeah.
We appreciate you.
I order way too much.
Somebody just spent $70 at Harlem Shake on my girlfriend's card, but you know we're fine.
We're figuring it out.
It's stressful. Great. So guys, let's hop into this. So today we want to talk about our healthcare system, specifically through the eyes of artists, because as some of our quotes and things showed at the beginning, healthcare is kind of very, very difficult to get if you are self-employed, which most actors essentially are. Like most actors work on like 1099 tax forms and things like that. And so you are never provided healthcare through your employer, which can be very tricky. So I think I want to start off. So healthcare is offered through like Actors Equity, which I am not a part of. Ryan and Andrew, you're both in Equity. So do one of you want to start off by kind of telling like what it takes to get healthcare through there, just so that like we have an idea?
Yeah, Ryan, please.
Sure. I might get the weeks wrong, but essentially you need to work 6 weeks on equity contract that provides you health weeks, which some don't.
Okay.
In order to get 6 months of insurance, and then
I think it's 12 weeks,
and then 12 for a year.
No, it's 26. I think it's 26 weeks for a year.
Oh man.
And then 12 for 6 months.
Okay, so it's essentially.
I think that's a new thing that I've recently heard.
So essentially, you have to work like half the year, which for those of you viewing, working half the year sounds like, oh, wouldn't that be nice to only work half the year? We're just saying that means working in a theater for half the year, not your serving job or your, you know, whatever you do to pay rent when you're in between those shows.
Right.
And normally,
please don't take me for rote on that, because I'm in a very different circumstance. I've been in Equity for like the last decade.
Yeah.
And I've been very fortunate enough to work regularly enough that I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
So
really, I mean, Equity is great, like for that fact, because for Sarah and I, I'm going to jump to her here in a second, but we've worked in some awful non-equity theaters, and where no health insurance is provided. So if you're a part of the union, there are at least opportunities for that. Sarah, tell your story about your appendix.
So first day of rehearsal, my stomach was hurting, thought it was just like nerves, couldn't sleep all night, was like, something's really wrong with me, drove to the hospital, and long story short, they basically said, oh, it's not your appendix. Just kidding, it's your appendix, we're operating right now. So I'm like middle of nowhere, Indiana. Thankfully had randomly driven to like the actual good hospital in the area. Didn't know. just drove myself in a car, like disappeared from cast housing. So then like couldn't rehearse for a week, was the dance captain. So I was like the best dance captain ever. And basically like got released and could 4 days to put up a show. But the like good news of it was saying I was still on my parents' insurance the last like 6 months of it. Thank goodness, because I didn't really truly, I guess, understand insurance that much because I had never had to like pay the bills myself. And then as soon as I got off of it, I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that it cost that much money and it would have been that I wouldn't have been able to pay for it because, especially as most of you know, with New York, the health insurance in New York, it only applies to New York. It doesn't apply to out of state. So all of that would have been out of pocket if that had happened to me 6 months later in my life. So
wow,
crazy story.
and so that kind of proves or puts everything into a nice little wrapping of like how, in ways, dangerous our current healthcare system is, because you can have someone who's working long hours without any kind of real healthcare. So I know that like Bernie Sanders, for instance, is one that has been talking about moving to like a single payer healthcare system where things are a little bit better overall. Do you guys have thoughts on, I mean, healthcare is complicated, obviously, but do you have thoughts on like ways that we can at least start for like self-employed artists, start trying to take care of ourselves a little bit more? Is it like, do we need to be talking to our politicians? Like, what do you think? Andrew, it seemed like you might have something.
I personally have, like, I love the Bernie Sanders school of thought that, you know, we should be, and I'm not like a socialist or anything, but I feel like we as a society should be taking care of the people that aren't as fortunate. I believe that the single payer system and universal healthcare should absolutely be a real thing. And I know that people will say that's a drag on the economy or whatever, but I'm a big proponent of across the board taking care of the people that created the economy for us old people. This whole thing with like Social Security, and that's a whole nother conversation, but you know, insurance for the elderly, taking care of the people that took care of us for the longest time and bolster the economy for us. We should be taking care of them. And as far as like the young people too, it's like we should be fostering them, at least through like being able to, from the economic standpoint, we should be providing the healthcare like a Sweden or a Baltic state or something where, you know, you give your people the amount of like maternity leave for women, or, you know, 6 months or whatever it is, or like if somebody has cancer in France, they get, you know, as much time as they need to heal. And some people, you know, in our capitalistic society think that, oh, they're a drag on the economy, or they're like, that's ridiculous. Fill them in with somebody else. Like there's another man up, you know, that kind of mentality in America, is that we should go on and do for our society. I think just it's better overall. Hearing myself like talking and then talking again is really confusing to me. So I'm sorry for that. I'm not being coherent. I'm like hearing it in double speak, and I'm like, did I say that? Did I say that right?
I totally get that. Yeah, you know, it's such a weird thing because like I feel like most, and we don't have to get into this, but I feel like most religion teachings that, you know, most of the country I feel like is religious of some sort is to take care of the sick, to take care of those in need. And it seems that a lot of times we allow our favor of the big companies and our economy and capitalism and all these things to like kind of detract from that, which is kind of scary. You know, like these companies are making millions and billions of dollars, and we seem to often be more worried about them than about whether or not somebody is going to either die because they don't want to go to the hospital or never be able to get out from under the debts that they have to pay because of it, which just seems wild.
Well, and like America has this thing where, like, how many times have you talked to a friend and they're like, I worked 55 hours this week, and they're like, I did it. Like, very few countries view that as like a super positive. Most view working to sustain life, so that you can go do other things besides a job,
rather than just like working constantly.
And just like working to work. And if we really think about it, on just not the extremes of, if you can have preventative care, you won't, like, you'll lessen your chances of getting into a space where you like are crippled by debt because you don't have the option. For example, I am equity, but I've been equity for 3 years now. I haven't worked enough weeks to even get 6 months through my union. So I'm currently on just a high deductible plan that essentially, if I get hit by a cab, I can use my insurance. But other than that, it's just kind of something I pay.
Is that like a Cobra situation, or is that a?
It's through Oscar.
Okay. I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, it's like a New York, like
Subway New York health plan. Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, and it ends up being tough because so many people end up having to decide, am I going to continue to pursue being in the arts at all, or am I going to take just any job that will give me healthcare, that will give me insurance?
What makes me so mad about it too is that people are not allowed to pursue their dreams, or you're not allowed to do something because of this handcuff insurance. It's like we're always, it's most people in the Midwest, and I know that my mother and my family have most of this problem as well, is that people are living paycheck to paycheck, and they're one medical malady away from being crippled by debt.
Yeah, I mean, I've had
even a dental problem these days. It's like $10,000 to get a crown filled or something ridiculous.
Yeah, I've had a skin issue that I have been just like not going to the doctor for like 6 months because I was just hoping it would go away. And then when I have gone, I've gone to like urgent care to try and make it cheaper, because even I have health insurance through the company I work for, but even still, like, it's expensive. So I can't imagine being in a situation with people, or like being in a situation where I didn't have health insurance to be able to go take care of something that is much worse than just like some heavy dermatitis on my fingers, I had one of my mom's best friends, her son-in-law, was a small business owner, and I think also had a appendectomy, had his appendix burst, and luckily had Obamacare, which had just started, and he had just joined right before this happened, or else he would have been like $100,000 in debt from everything that he went through with that. Which also, if the talk is about the economy, that seems a little, you don't want your entire base of consumers and civilians to be thousands and thousands of dollars in debt. That doesn't help anything.
But I think that's the point. I mean, it's like the whole deal with college. It's all just a big handcuff to society. Unfortunately, the rich people have decided, and this is my own thoughts on this, is that, if we can suppress the middle class and we can suppress the lower class, then with debt, no one will ever get out of that, and they will just continually spin their wheels inside of this working hamster wheel, if you will, to provide goods and services for the people who are in another financial class.
Yeah. Which, so this brings it around to, what do we do as citizens of our country to try and make it so that this is like, that we aren't being shackled by for lack of a better word, the 1%.
We vote, and we get these people out of here. These ridiculous, like, you know, and no offense to the right, like, I am a gun owner, but like the NRA lobby, the big pharma lobby, these other huge, and I hate to say right side because I know a lot of people who are absolutely liberal minded, but believe in the right. And I only say that for lack of a worse word. Yeah. That we can't get anything done because there is so much opposition in the middle. And there's no, I lost my train of thought.
No, I totally
understand. Yeah. Okay.
Well, Carl and I kind of talked about this yesterday, just about how the left has a hard time getting the message across that things affect the individual that they're talking to. It's always kind of like we need to help others.
Yeah.
And if you get people to have a self-interest, then they will be more active in voting for things that they actually need. I think there's a reason why artists are being so vocal about so many issues right now, because it's, besides being empathetic, it's affecting us actually directly right now as individuals.
It's a direct effect, right?
Yeah, well, and that's, I kind of got that partly from, if you were fans of The Newsroom, at one point he's talking about Democrats and he's like, one of the things is that Democrats can't explain often these like huge governmental agencies and things that they want to put in place. And like, I believe that they are helpful, but it's hard at times to pinpoint why it is helpful to like this person. When someone's like, tell me why it's helping me, a lot of times that's hard, especially for people in the middle class where everything seems like it is for poor people, right? And no one wants to view themselves as a poor person. But a lot of times I feel like, you know, the Democratic candidates just often have a hard time of pinpointing how these things are actually helpful, which makes it so that it's hard to make someone want to vote for you if you can't explain your things.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think also just it's important, I think, as artists also to maybe speak up about our unique positions, because kind of tying it all back in, but we don't necessarily have access to health insurance. And so we're having to go through the marketplace. We're having to like pray we get it through unions, but it's not going to happen usually. And so like you brought up the poor people. So I have definitely learned about health insurance over the last couple of years because of each year it feels like I'm having to apply for a different plan. So I started out on what I very lovingly called the poor people plan, which was at first seemed horrible because like 2 people in all of Queens would take it and I couldn't find a pharmacy to take it and they were denying me the certain eye drop that I needed. But then I wasn't paying for a lot. And then all of a sudden I made more money, barely little more money, and all of a sudden didn't qualify for that anymore. And now it's up to like $500 and I barely get anything out of it and everything's out of pocket. And that's insane. Like it shouldn't be that big of a difference between, you know, what this like low cost one is. And then all of a sudden like, oh, you make enough money so you can afford full cost. And I think that's something, once again, like middle class maybe don't understand and they don't see. But it's something that I've only learned because of experience. Like I said, the last couple of years, I've kind of learned and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what everyone's talking about. Like this is, I don't know, but you know what I mean? And so I think that it's also important as artists for us to stand up and say, hey, like this is what's happening. And it's not that I don't work hard. I could have qualified for insurance through my restaurant job, but you know what? I didn't want to be like indebted to them and feel like I had to keep that job because I wanted that insurance. And I'm very lucky that I could say that.
Well,
but not everyone in America can say that.
So
you know,
that's a funny thing that I just want to touch on real quick. I randomly through the world of Twitter ended up doing a NPR interview with Marketplace at one point last year. And I had a guy track me down on Facebook and decide to give me a lecture about hard work. Because at one point I had said, you know, I don't want to be working 40 hours a week in a restaurant and this and that. And he was like, well, you know, like, if you're not willing to work for it, then you can't complain about it. And I think that what you're saying and what I was saying at the time was that it's not so much not wanting to work the hours. It's that as artists, we spend all of our extra time working. We're going to auditions. If you're an actor, you're writing, you're like doing your artwork, you know, whatever it is, you have your job that gives you money, but then the career that you're trying to build, you have to do a lot of work that doesn't pay. And so to do 40 hours a week at a restaurant and then try and find 20 to 30 maybe hours for the rest of your stuff, I mean, it's wild. And so it's not that you're not willing to do hard work. It's that there's a certain point where you can't keep working. Like, you can't physically keep doing it or else you kind of burn out, which is tough.
Well, that stream of thought goes beyond being just like an artist and an actor, and that's like a totally different conversation, but it's just kind of generational. People in their 20s, late 20s, early 30s, most people have more than one job because of wage, which is different. But it's an interesting thing. My mom works in insurance, and she was very insistent about me getting insurance when I turned 26 this past year. Not only because what if I get hit by a car and have to pay for it, but she's in charge of looking over people's claims as they go throughout their life. And insurance companies look at breaks in coverage as a negative.
Interesting.
So it's not.
I know that.
It's not like they recognize, oh, he probably couldn't afford it, or was doing something else, or just chose to go without. It's a negative impact on if you will be covered or insured or what your deductible might be.
Interesting. I feel like that is an important thing that doesn't really get talked about. That is something I've never heard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-mm.
I mean, is it like credit in that fact that if you don't, it's viewed as you don't pay your bills or you're not paying on time and something like that, but only in the insurance realm?
Yeah, that's how she described it to me.
Yeah, I'm sure that it is the company doesn't want to take a chance on you if they have any slight thought.
There's a doubt, right? It's like, pre-existing conditions or anything like that.
Yeah, which
so absurd.
Is kind of just like completely wild.
Yeah.
So do any of you I like to try and give us some sort of call to action at the end. Have any of you come across like a nonprofit that you like that helps with health insurance kind of issues, or do you see someone out there who is fighting the good fight that you want to direct people towards, or anything like that? I know that's a very open-ended question. I'll start. So for one group that I have been in touch with that we mentioned in the comments, Jessica Ryan mentioned them. Open Progress is this group that is trying to take money out of politics. And essentially what they do is they have this volunteer base that they use online on Facebook and other social media to go literally and just like comment on videos to help them like rise to the top on your news feed. Because the way that the algorithms are set up, that's what happens. So they often help with candidates and causes and things. So if you go join them, essentially go to their website, and I'm sure that they have causes and candidates who are working for healthcare and health insurance and making it more available for all of us, that they can have you help. And literally all you have to do is like get on your phone and write some Facebook comments, which is the easiest form of volunteerism that is possible on this earth. As well as they have, Jess is helping me in the comments, they have text armies that help get people like registered to vote and all of those things. So it's not necessarily specific to health insurance, but right now, everyone who we are putting into office is specific to health insurance. And they have fun things for artists. You can do voiceovers, you can edit videos, all kinds of different things that they need help with. So you guys should go check them out.
Great.
Great.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, so that's my little plug. So guys, thanks for joining us this week. I appreciate it. I feel like this is a difficult conversation, not necessarily because there are a lot of people out there who are like, oh, I don't want anyone who's sick to be able to not be sick, but more so because like the money aspect of things is just complicated.
But I think also the information aspect too. Like a lot of people don't know about insurance. Like I don't know anything. You know, I'm barely scathing the surface with my like, you know, kind of BS reverential stuff about like just the general aspect of how I feel about it. But I don't know any of the ins and outs really.
Yeah, if you talk to me,
go to like actually learn more about it, unless I go into this like, you know, ridiculous jargon page on some insurance website or something that's like, oh, this is how this works, and it just doesn't. It's just seems like a racket to me.
Yeah,
you know, like student loans and things like that. I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist when it comes to stuff like that. It's just there's so much verbiage out there that I go, I don't want to read that. I don't want to know about that because it's just too it's too in depth that I'm like, I don't want to waste my time. And I think that's how a lot of people feel about it.
Yeah.
I would love to advocate right now.
Go for it.
Sorry to interrupt. To advocate for Equity Fights AIDS, the donation portion this season on in all the Broadway shows and stuff and theaters around the country. And the Actors Fund is a huge database for insurance monies. They do offer, you know, all kinds of different services, not just for healthcare, but for mental health issues as well, which we really haven't even touched on. And as far as like, you know, if you lapse in insurance or there's anything like that, they're able to help you out. So you can just contact them at any point for any reason. They're just a great, you know, the Actors Fund is through Actors Equity is a great database for you to go to if you want information or help with anything.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. Go check that out. And you're right, Andrew, we didn't get a chance to touch on mental health, and most psychologists, psychiatrists, therapists are not even so many like can't take health insurance, or like your health insurance doesn't let you go to those. And that is like a crisis that we are as a country not even paying attention to.
But we've dismissed it for so long as, you know, oh, that person's kooky or crazy or whatever. But then there's like actual technical scientific information out there that's like people do have chemical imbalances and they do have these problems. We need to, you know, figure it out if it's through talking or PTSD syndromes, you know, things like that. You're seeing a lot more in vets coming back, especially from the newer style warfare that we're having, like a Desert Storm or, you know, starting at Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and into the Afghanistan war. You have a lot of people dealing with different kinds of issues that we didn't really address in Vietnam and World War II, that we kind of repressed as a society, and then we're still living in that generational aspect. That's sad.
Yeah, and it's only just lately that we're even really getting to the point where we can talk about it. I mean, if you watch The Sopranos, Tony Soprano goes to therapy and he has to like hide it from all of his cohorts because he was like,
it's
if they
embarrassing.
find out,
people are embarrassed that I'm weak or something,
and they'll think I'm crazy or all these things that like, no, like sometimes you just need someone to tell you why your emotion. You can ask my fiance. Sometimes my emotions tell me some things that are happening that just like I feel, and like that's honest and true to me, but like that's not necessarily what someone is trying to say, or, you know, all those things. And it's good to have someone who can help you work through those things.
Right.
So all that being, go ahead, Ryan.
I think it's important to remember that most doctors, 99.9% want to help, and their hands are tied too. And we got a lot of big voting to do in next year, and
this year.
Informed.
This year, we have a lot of voting to do.
Yeah, vote informed. Don't just pick the side. Read the packets.
Yeah,
and then we'll be able to actually like make some change.
Yeah, 100%. Well, guys, thanks so much for joining me this morning. I know it's early. Sunday mornings are supposed to be slept in, but I feel like we have had a good conversation that needs to be had. So thanks so much for coming on the show.
Welcome.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Oh, hey guys, thanks for joining us this week. Make sure you add your voice in the comments. Make sure you share this video. We'd really appreciate it. Hey, we're gonna be back next week. We're gonna do it all over again. We hope you join us. Alright, this is so good.